Crysta Saves the Magic, based on the animated feature film Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest. It was dawn in Fern Gully, and Crysta, a tiny rainforest fairy, was racing rainbow lorikeets through the mist. Even though speed flying was forbidden by fairy law, Crysta was one of the fastest flyers in the forest. Only her elf friend Pips came close to beating her. Crysta shot past the lorikeets in a dazing burst of light. "Not fair," one complained. "That's a fairy trick." Crysta laughed and flew off to see Maggie Loon, the oldest fairy in the forest. The frogs had been saying that someone was working the weather, and that it might be Hexus, Fern Gully's ancient enemy. Weather working, wondered Crysta. Is it possible? Maggie Loon would know. Guarding the entrance to Maggie Loon's home, deep in the heart of the Antarctic beech trees, were two cassowaries, Ock and Rock. "State your name, Crysta," said Ock importantly. "And the password," mumbled Rock. "All right," said Crysta. "Is that the password?" asked Rock. "Sounds fine to me," nodded Ock, scratching the bone on top of his head. "Maggie," said Crysta softly, "who is Hexus? Can he really work the weather?" Maggie sighed. "A long time ago," she said, "Hexus became the destroyer and upset the balance of nature. I had to call up the old powers to imprison him inside a tree at the foot of Mount Warning." "Can't he escape?" asked Crysta. "Never," said Maggie. "No natural force can free him. Something else must be changing the weather." Crysta flew home slowly, Maggie Loon's words buzzing inside her head. Suddenly, Pips appeared in a flash beside her. "You've been flying like an old mothball," he said. Then a roar shattered the peace of the forest. It was mad, bad Beetle Boys, riding their noisy staghorn beetles. "We've got you this time," yelled Stump, their leader, "and we're gonna molt you." Pips and Crysta streaked away through the forest towards Thunder Falls. They dived into the spray, then shot up over the top of the falls. Pip slowed down, but Crysta kept flying higher and higher. "Crysta, stop!" shouted Pips. To his horror, Crysta disobeyed fairy law and flew straight through the canopy. She disappeared. For a moment, Crysta was blinded by the intense light. She blinked, amazed. She had never seen so much blue sky. She'd never dreamt that the world above the canopy was so beautiful. There, in the distance, was a towering rock. A thin, swirly black cloud rose from one side of it. "What a strange cloud," Crysta thought. The sky darkened. Crysta looked up and saw a huge falcon plummeting towards her, its deadly talons outstretched. She gasped and dived for safety of the canopy. Crysta hurtled through the tall trees, feeling the falcon's breath on her wings. Any moment now it would snatch her up. Tucking in her wings, she dived through a tiny opening in a maze of prickly vines. The falcon plunged after her, but the vines tore at its wings. Angrily, it flapped free and headed back to the open sky. Crysta sped on, her heart pounding, until she crashed into Pips as he hovered beneath the canopy looking for her. "What are you trying to do? Kill me?" he yelled. But she just flew away as if she was in a daze. She had to see Maggie Loon now and ask her about the rock and the strange cloud. Crysta found Maggie floating around the forest near her home. New flowers burst into life wherever she passed by. Spellbound, Crysta watched Maggie toss a seed into the air, then watched it change into an image of the world above the canopy. "There are worlds within worlds," Maggie explained. "Everything is connected, Crysta, from our forest world to the stars, right down to this tiny seed. We are all part of the magic web of life." "I wish I could work magic like that," Crysta sighed, then told Maggie what she had seen above the canopy. "That rock was Mount Warning," said Maggie, and the cloud was probably smoke from a fire. Some unnatural force has freed Hexus. When Crysta arrived home at the Strangler fig tree, which everyone called Old High Rise, the elves and fairies were waiting for her. They complained to her about her speed flying with the lorikeets and her skylarking with the dreadful beetle boys. "While you were out skylarking," scolded one of the elfin elders, "a falcon made a huge hole in the canopy." I think there is something even worse happening," Crysta said. "Hexus is working the weather." Everyone stared at her. Pips was at Mossy Bank playing music. Frogs and lorikeets provided a tuneful chorus. Pips loved to tune in to the rhythms of the forest, but he couldn't stop thinking about what Crysta had just told him. She said she was going to fly to Mount Warning. She wanted Pips to go with her. He'd said, "No way, Mount Warning doesn't exist. It's only a place in fairy legend." Perhaps he was wrong, but before he could think of any more about it, a huge flying creature crashed past. "It's some sort of bat," gasped Pips. "If someone doesn't stop it, it'll kill itself and everything in its paths." The frantic bat crashed into Old High Rise, staggered to his feet, and began to wail. "I'm a freak from a laboratory, a freaky fruit bat as you can see. I've been brain fried, electrowired, infected, injected, and terrified. Now hang a fang while I flap my jaw. Excuse the slang and I'll tell you more. I'm rude, I'm nude, I'm even tattooed. I'm scatty, batty, coda, one groovy dude. I've been paralyzed and sterilized, hypnotized and humanized." "Humans?" said Crysta. "Did you say humans? Where they at Mount Warning?" Batty Coda shivered. "Forget about the humans," he bleeped, "and forget about Mount Warning. Fairy bug. It's a master disaster." Early next morning, Crysta persuaded Batty to go flying with her. As they neared the edge of the forest, Crysta told him that they were heading for Mount Warning. He crashed into a tree. "Fractured figs, fairy bug. There are humans at Mount Warning," he bleeped, and refused to continue. "I'll go alone then," said Crysta, and before Batty could say groovacious, she'd flown out of the forest. When Crysta reached Mount Warning, in the front of her stood the ugliest tree she'd ever seen. Was this Hexus, the tree? Suddenly something lunged at the tree, toppling it with a mighty crash. Caught up in the branches, Crystal struggled, screaming. Then she was snatched up, and a familiar voice said, "Whoop bananas corpses! Fairy bug, you were nearly gobbled up." Crysta thought that Batty's crazy chatter was the most wonderful sound in the world. As night fell, the elves and fairies of Fern Gully were afraid. They did not yet know that Hexus had escaped, but they were worried about Crysta. Where could she be? While the elders organised a search party, Pips and the Beetle Boys sped through the forest, calling out Crysta's name. Pips was sure that Crysta had gone alone to Mount Warning. If only he'd listened to her. If only. Crysta and Batty spent the night snugly in a tree. In the morning she flew straight to Maggie Loon. Maggie was looking into a large bubble of water she'd scooped out of the pond. In it she could see a row after row of tree stumps. Flocks of frightened birds wheeled in the sky. "There is something in the wind," Maggie said. "The unnatural force that did this has also freed Hexus. Soon the whole forest may be in danger." "But surely you can stop him again," Crysta cried. "I'm no longer young and strong," Maggie said wearily. "My power is limited." "I'll help," said Crysta. "Perhaps," said the old fairy thoughtfully. "But first I must show you the danger you will face. Once you have decided to fight Hexus, there can be no turning back." Maggie scooped up another bubble of water, and they stared into its depths. They saw what seemed to be a monster in the forest, belching black smoke and felling trees with one mighty arm. That's the monster that tried to eat me, Crysta said. It's not a monster, it's a machine for cutting down trees, Maggie explained. Then Maggie and Crysta saw an angry-faced cloud hovering above the machine. That's Hexus, said Maggie. The humans with their machine have accidentally released him. Now he's out of control. She turned to Crysta. Do you still want to face Hexus? Crysta swallowed. Yes, she said in a small but firm voice. Very well. Then we must gather everyone together for the ceremony. There is no time to lose. The word went out throughout Fern Gully. Meet Maggie Loon in the heart of the Antarctic beech forest. There is to be a ceremony, and Maggie Loon is going to work the old powers to save the forest. Animals, elves, and fairies came from all parts of Fern Gully and gathered around Maggie Loon as she hovered above the ground. Maggie put a glowing seed in Crysta's hand, just as every seed holds the power and magic of creation. So do you, Crysta, and every other creature in the world. Maggie said, combine your power with the love you feel for this forest and for all life. You will banish Hexus. As Maggie spoke, her body dissolved until she was just a spark of light. Your time has come, Crysta. Look for the hero inside you. Maggie's voice floated into the trees, and everyone began to sing. Together, with the magic of nature, they would save Fern Gully. Led by Crysta, they all flew off, vowing that this time they would defeat Hexus forever.